Welcome to lesson number 5 with Emotional Science with VP Culture. This lesson is about tight focus on personal emotional state. So you're going to be looking at your personal emotional state to identify it. Now that we've talked about the energy and the thoughts, we're going to combine those together and identify our emotional state. So, name it to tame it is a saying in the psychological realm. What is he feeling? You can look at someone's emotional state and can you name what he's thinking right now? Can you name how he's feeling? So that's what we're going to try to work on today. We're going to try to work on coming up with an exact English word for what we call it. So there's thousands of English words that describe emotions, from shame to anger to disappointment to disillusionment to surprise to shock to awe to wonder. Those are all feelings that we could list, and there's thousands of other words. Using all these words accurately and well, it's going to help you in the emotional science and become emotionally intelligent. So name it to tame it is the goal here, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this. So looking at our chart here where we've identified the physical state, we've identified the thoughts, whether they're positive and negative in the situation. And this chart here shows the multitude of emotions that you could have within this realm. You could feel apathetic, sad, lonely. So this is a chart from an app that you can actually use that can help you identify your emotions, from uneasy, worried, concerned, troubled. So these are all different words that you could use, hundreds of words. And you can see towards the center, they're a little bit more tame. And then when you get out to the edges of the chart, you start to get more aggressive emotions and more emphatic emotions that are felt a little bit more powerfully, versus pleasant to ecstatic kind of thing. So these are all different ways of seeing how this charting works as it gets more pleasant or less pleasant, more despairing versus just plain old, I don't really care, apathetic. So being able to do this, chart where you're at on our big chart of emotions. So once we've named the emotion, we also have to do the second step, which is accepting the emotion. So first step is name it to tame it, and the second step is accepting it. Both of these have a calming effect on the emotional state. So let's look at accepting and non-judgmental. So you're just going to look at the state and go, this is what's happening. Just a mere statement of fact, and accept it as a, isn't that curious? That's the observer, VLPLC, is able to do that and just have a beat on it, not be melded with it and not be able to see it and be actually anxious that you're feeling that emotion. That's that ruminative cycle that we're talking about. So instead of being accepting, which kind of lets the emotion be out here, when you're up here and afraid of your own emotions, that's a kind of a terrifying, non-productive state to be in when you're in this state here where you're rejecting and judgmental. It's very similar to what we discussed last time when you're trying to push those thoughts away. So rejecting and judgmental state is not going to be helpful towards your emotional state. Not a healthy way to go through life, sort of opposing your own self. So it's best to have an accepting, non-judgmental approach. These are both ACT tools that we've talked about before. So in accepting non-judgment, here's some of the benefits of that, where you've got calming hormones, you've got serotonin, you've got vitality, energy, and health. These are all results from just taking an accepting, non-judgmental approach towards your emotional self. So very important to do that. And these are the benefits of doing that. So let's look at the science. So we've got this neurotransmitter called GABA. And GABA is not a band from Sweden. It's actually a neurotransmitter that works to inhibit your impulses in your brain. Slows things down, calms things down. It's like you get this GABA spray when your VLPLC names your emotion and accepts it. And it's just, this rains down on your more activated limbic system and calms it down. It has a calming effect. So this is what's activated scientifically when you do this naming and accepting. So there's an actual effect on your brain that changes its whole disposition. So scientists have studied this thing, what they call emotional granularity. Yes, that's big words for, can you name a lot of emotion words? How's your emotional vocabulary? Can you answer what each one of these people are feeling by just looking at them? So these are all the tools that scientists have discovered that having this skill will definitely benefit you in becoming a more emotionally intelligent people. So we'll provide you with some resources where you can dig into more emotional words so you can expand your emotional vocabulary so you can become, have more skills in doing this naming of emotions. So again, we've got our friend the VLPLC, which is that part of your brain right here. And this is the part that activates. So instead of being all subcortical and sort of autonomic, which is very reactive, like run away, danger, you're getting into the observing parts, and that's the part that gets engaged when you start naming something. It has to employ not your limbic emotional system, but the side of your brain, your temporal lobes that hold all of your language centers, and then it starts slowing things down and then releases all that GABA that we were talking about. So, it has this role not of just being an observer, but also a calmer when you get it involved. And you get your whole prefrontal cortex, the neocortex involved in like, what's going on down there in the emotional centers. It starts to take control and do different things to the rest of your brain. So you see how you've got like two different brains going on here. This one has to talk to this one and get it to sort of get its calm going on. So that's what's going on here with the VLPOC this time. So we're using this system to name our emotions and come to some sort of conclusion with who we are. Now, story time, and we're going to go into another motivational interviewing situation. Again, this one is going to be a solo interview with someone basically looking at themselves and sort of weighing out their ambivalence. Like, should I go this way? Am I feeling this? Evaluating their emotional situation with open-ended questions, affirmations, which was like saying, I'm good at this. That would be a good idea. Reflections is I'm saying this. Is there more to it? And then summarizing the whole thing. So this story is going to be from our friend Tricia here. So let's listen to Tricia's story as she evaluates her emotional state.
Okay, Tricia, let's break this down. What emotions are you experiencing right now? I guess I'm feeling negative emotions, definitely some anxiety. But it's more than that. It's like a mix of frustration, uncertainty, maybe even a touch of sadness. Let's pinpoint it further. What's the specific emotion? Is it fear? Anger? Disappointment? I think it's disappointment. I had high expectations for our meeting and now I feel let down. But why am I disappointed? Maybe because I value being heard and people taking time for me. Okay, Tricia. It's okay to feel disappointed. It doesn't mean I'm a failure or that my boss hates me. Maybe she's busy or dealing with her own challenges. Accepting these emotions gives me peace. It's a normal part of being human. I won't dwell on this any longer. Instead of assuming the worst, I'll pivot. I value open communication, so I'll send her a polite email asking for a meeting. If she's still unavailable, I'll focus on my work and stay aligned with my values.
All right, so let's look at our group questions. How difficult is it for you to name emotions? Sometimes this is tricky for people, sometimes it's not. So that's question number 1. Question number 2. Can you name 3 emotions that you've experienced already today? Think back on your day. What have you already experienced? Question number 3. What's harder to name, your energy or your thoughts for you, and why? Question number 4. Is it easier for you to identify your emotions yourself or by talking it out with someone else? What's the best way for you to process your emotional world? Talk about that with your team. All right. Now that we're done evaluating those questions, this lesson has been on the tight focus of personal emotional state. What are you feeling? Can you name it? And can you accept it? Those are the key thoughts there. We had a little bit of a scientific tour about what our brain does to calm itself down and how that calming is linked to doing this naming process and the accepting process. So, tools for you to use to calm yourself down and get yourself going on the right direction. So thanks for joining me on lesson number 5, and I look forward to talking with you more on lesson number 6.